All right, let's look at an example of sketching two stacked box plots of two data sets by hand. So the first data set we have is listed here as data set 1, and that's those values. And to use your calculator, you want to input all of those values, for example, into list 1. And then we have a second data set, and here's the values for the second data set. Input those values into list 2. So one box plot is going to be made of this data set 1, and another box plot will be made of data set 2. So those are going to be our two box plots. When you use the one variable stats function on your calculator and you run it on list 1, these are the results that you get here on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, if you run one variable stats on list 2, then this is a screenshot of the results that you get on the right-hand side. And so when you're going to stack two box plots on top of each other, you need to think about how you're going to draw this number line down below. And so when you draw this number line down below, what is going to be the range of your data? It's going to go from what number to what number. So in order to help you decide how you should scale your number line, you want to look at the minimum values for both box plots. And so on the right, we have a minimum value of 1, and on the left, we have a minimum value of 4. So in order to make sure that we get both minimums on the number line, we're going to want maybe a starting value of 0. So if we start the number line at 0, 0 will be a little bit to the left of 1, and that should make sure that we can graph our minimum of 1 here on the second data set. And because the other data set has a minimum of 4, that shouldn't be a problem there. So that'll set the left-hand side, and that's why I started this number line at 0 here. And next, I looked at the maximum value for both data sets. So one data set, we had a maximum of 10, and the other data set, we had a maximum of 12. And so now we need to know how far to the right to scale the number line. And so we want some value larger than 12, because 12 is the greatest of the two numbers. And so I just decided maybe to end the number line at 14. And 14 is greater than 12. So that's where I got 14 here on the end. And so then I just drew a horizontal line and put tick marks in and labeled the tick marks by 2s, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and just proceeded to graph. So this let me see, change the color. So I think this first data set, this is data set 1. This is the 5-number summary for data set number 1. It's got a minimum of 4. So that's why I put this vertical line here at 4. Then the first quartile was at 5. So I put a vertical line here at 5. And then a median at 7. So that's why I've got a vertical bar here at 7. And a third quartile of 9. So I've got this vertical bar here at 9. And then a maximum of 10. So I've got this vertical bar here at 10. And so to complete the box plot for the first data set, I need to draw a line between the first quartile and the third quartile. So that's this top line here, and put another one on the bottom, and that forms the box. And then to do the whisker part of the box plot, I need to draw a horizontal line between the third quartile and the max, and the first quartile and the minimum. So this is what my first box plot looks like for data set 1. Now for data set 2, okay, this is data set 2. This is my 5-number summary. And so the minimum is at 1. So down here on my number line, I'm going to put a vertical line at 1 on the number line. Then for the first quartile, it is 2. So I'm going to put a vertical line here at 2. Has a median of 3. So I'm going to have a vertical line marking the median at 3 on the number line. Then the third quartile is 4.5. So I have to kind of interpolate that between 4 and 5 on my number line. So that's going to be right about there. And then I've got a maximum of 12. So out here on 12, I'm going to put a vertical line. So between the first quartile and the third, I need to close off the box by drawing 2 horizontal lines between Q1 and Q3, and another line below between Q1 and Q3 that forms the box. And then between the minimum and the first quartile, draw a whisker. Between the third quartile and the maximum, draw another whisker. And that is the box plot for my second data set. And just to kind of also make another observation here of these 2 box plots, which is why it is worthwhile stacking them, is you can see this first data set, the middle 50%, or the concentration of the data, looks like it's pretty well centered between the maximum and the minimum. So I would say that this is pretty well centered within the maximum and minimum of the data set. But by contrast, if you look at the second data set, this middle 50% seems to be much closer to the minimum. Okay, so let me choose the right color. So this middle 50% appears to be concentrated to the minimum, or skewed to the minimum. And another way to say skewed to the minimum is going to be skewed right. And we'll get into that later when we look at normal distributions. And I just wanted to take a side note to kind of explain the importance of that middle 50%.